There was a win this week in the seemingly endless grift of the Trump 2.0 era. The Senate brokered a compromise deal at the start of the week to end the government shutdown, and as it happens, after the vote, we started to learn about the things in the bill that had nothing to do with reopening the government. Politico reported Monday Senate Republicans secured a provision in the bipartisan shutdown-ending government funding package that could award senators hundreds of thousands of dollars for having their phone records collected without their knowledge as part of the January 6th investigation. That legislative language comes directly from Senate Majority Leader John Thune. You heard that right. A potential $500,000 payout for Republican senators whose phone records were subpoenaed in the federal criminal investigation into Donald Trump's attempt to overturn the 2020 election results. Congressman Joe Neguse thought that was outrageous, and he decided to put a Republican chairman on the spot about it live on television.
And this is the provision that essentially allows specifically 8 Republican United States senators to reap upwards of a $500,000 payday with respect to the phone record notice provision that they've added into the bill. You support that provision?
I didn't have anything to do with it, didn't have any knowledge of it.
Not asking if you have knowledge of it. Do you support it?
Yeah. Do I support the bill? Yes. Do I support every single provision of the bill? No.
You don't find this provision repugnant? I think most American people are going to find this pretty repugnant.
I was surprised to see it in the bill.
There will be an amendment proposed to remove what I think is a deeply insidious provision. I think it is outrageous for these Republican senators to effectively guarantee themselves $1 million paydays. Retroactive provision in this bill that very clearly applies to them. The removal of all relevant immunity defenses on the part of the United States government. This is insanity to allow this provision to go forward. And I would hope that my Republican colleagues would join us in supporting the removal of this provision. At a minimum, we ought to be able to find common ground on that.
The very next day, the Washington Post reported a provision tied to the investigation into the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol, buried deep in the bill to end the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, has sparked bipartisan outrage, with House Republicans vowing to try to repeal the provision later, even as the House passed the bill that includes it. Speaker Mike Johnson told reporters after the vote that many House Republicans were angry about the provision and that he had spoken to Thune about it. The House will try to pass a bill early next week to repeal the provision, Johnson said. Realizing just how bad they looked, NBC News reported today that most of the senators whose data was requested as part of the investigation that led to special counsel Jack Smith's January 6 probe have now distanced themselves from a provision included in the shutdown-ending bill that would let them sue the government for potentially millions of dollars for not notifying them when accessing their records. Several senators have already indicated that they won't seek a payout, except apparently for one.
Will you be filing a lawsuit?
Oh, definitely. And if you think I'm going to sell this thing for $1 million, no. I want to make it so painful no one ever does this again.
And they would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for those meddling House members. Joining us now is the Democratic Congressman Joe Neguse of Colorado. He's the Assistant Democratic Leader and a member of the House Rules Committee. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Good to see you, Ali. Thanks for having me.
Let's just paint a picture here. This is information that was subpoenaed. It's been described by Jamie Raskin as the kind of thing you'd see in a phone bill. It's not a recording. It's not a wiretap. It's information about calls in and out, subpoenaed. This wasn't somebody just handing over information.
That's correct. Yeah, my colleague, Representative Raskin, is accurate. And I think you've described well, Ali, the particular insidiousness of this provision. I mean, I think, as you know, I was in the Capitol on January 6th with my colleagues. I served as one of the impeachment prosecutors in the impeachment trial that followed of President Trump. The notion that these senators would attempt to secure $1 million paydays connected to litigation with respect to January 6th is so outrageous and transparently corrupt on its face that, as you noted, several House Republicans, I think, felt compelled to at least create the perception that they were distancing themselves from these senators and this just corrupt effort at self-enrichment. But of course, actions speak louder than words, and it is important to recognize that every single House Republican, with the exception of 2, still voted for the bill on Wednesday that included this provision. So that provision is now the law of the land. They had every opportunity to support our amendment. They chose not to. We will have another opportunity, we hope, next week to pass this bill. And ultimately, at that point, the question will be, what is the Speaker prepared to do to compel Senator Thune and the upper chamber to remove this provision from law? But it is transparently corrupt, and I think the American people understand that.
How would this apply to the rest of us? If there was a valid case or an investigation and someone subpoenaed my phone records from the phone company, what protections do the rest of us have? I mean, were the senators looking to carve out a special thing for them? This wasn't a lawsuit saying the investigation was not legal.
That's precisely what they were trying to do. I mean, it's a separate set of rules that the Senate the Senate Republicans attempted to create, and essentially guaranteeing themselves through this self-enrichment scheme, upwards of millions of dollars if the notice requirements that they are now imposing were violated. And these requirements would only apply to a specific class of individuals, and that is the United States Senate. And I think there are reasonable questions to be asked as to how this provision got into the bill in the first place.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Violate.
Who puts this 2025? Like, we've got AI. We can find these things. Like, who thinks that they can get away with this?
That's right. Well, and by the way, there are specific Senate ethics rules that ultimately compel senators to not champion or support or aid legislation that would benefit themselves financially. So some really important questions to be asked. But look, at the end of the day, Ali, the reality is this is emblematic of the broader corruption that has become endemic in Trump's Washington, D.C. I mean, the reality is it's no different than Trump's efforts to try to secure hundreds of millions of dollars through the Department of Justice, taxpayer dollars connected to the litigation against him. There was reporting today that apparently the Department of Justice is attempting to settle $1 million lawsuit with Michael Flynn, the former national security advisor.
Maybe up to $50 million.
From President Trump's first term. Upwards of $50 million. So again, the reality is Donald Trump, I think, has made corruption the rule in Washington, D.C. And this all comes on with the backdrop of Americans paying increased costs. It's as a result of Trump's policies, everything is getting more expensive. And meanwhile, they are securing $1 million paydays for the sycophantic Republican supporters that he has in the United States Senate. It's disgraceful. And I think that ultimately there will be an electoral price to be paid next November. The voters understand corruption when they see it.
It's a big trough, and there are a lot of snouts in it right now. But this is a victory. This was one of those things that pulls everybody back just a little bit. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you for being with us.